To me, it feels like Mississippi State needs this game a little more. Jeff Lebby needs it, especially more than Drinkwitz, I think, at this point.
It's Mizzou That's Who here on KC Sports. Upper Tucker Franklin hanging out with Maggie Johnson for a, what is this now, week 12 edition of Mizzou That's Who. We're getting deep into the thick of
lost track.
Yeah, the bye week kind of throws everything off too, because it's like that was like week 10, and then it's always a week ahead of the NFL season is kind of how I try to remember it.
Yeah,
week 12. Mississippi State coming to Columbia for senior night. Maggie, before we get into that game, I know that you were in Columbia for the A&M game. Thoughts on that atmosphere and thoughts on the game?
Okay, it's interesting.
Loaded question.
Loaded question.
Sure,
I think that the atmosphere started out great. I think, I went into it not really knowing what to expect, I guess.
Yeah.
And I thought the Mizzou played actually pretty well that first, not offensively, but defense kind of, held us in that game to start it. And then it was just after that weird fumble that kind of feels like an interception because it was like a crazy catch. I don't even know how that defender made that. But after that, it was like all wind out of the sails. You went into halftime. A lot of the students had left. I'm not trying to pick a war with the students, but a lot of the students had left. It was quiet. Like people weren't cheering as much on defense. And it was just one of those things. It was like everybody at that point was like, we're not winning this game. And I think that's unfortunate because we got us into that situation where we're only down 14 and then the fake punt happened. And there was just one thing after another that felt like we weren't prepared for what Texas A&M was going to do. They were just way more ready for this game than we were, but also they're the number 3 team in the country. And there's a reason that they're the number 3 team in the country. Could probably make an argument to be number 1 or 2 based on how they've been playing. So it was great during the day. Game was kind of weird. I'm hoping that people aren't looking at last week's game and being like, there's no need for me to go this week. I know it's a sellout and all of that, but I'm just hoping that people are still showing up the same way that they showed up on last Saturday.
38-17, obviously the final score, and that's a game that final deficit does feel a lot more than just 38-17, right? I tweeted out in the middle of that game, I don't know if there's been a 14-point lead feel more like a 42-point lead ever, just because of the way that the Missouri's offense wasn't able to score. I mean, look, Matt Zollers was 7 of 22. Like, that is putrid to put it. Yeah. Look, I don't fault Matt Zollers at all because he's a freshman starting against a really damn good Texas A&M team, a team that, as you mentioned, is now number 2 in the country, should probably be number 1. I mean, they've had a tougher schedule than Ohio State has, and they've won games on the road, and they've had to do tougher things than Ohio State has. And I still think those are both really good teams. But it just kind of fell apart after half. And it kind of felt like the defense did everything to keep them in this game. Like they had every opportunity to kind of seize some moments, and the defense played really well. Ultimately, I think it just comes down to the fact that the defense the dam broke for the defense, right? Eventually,
they were on the field They were on the field too long. That's going to happen anytime you play a team that, an offense can't get. Right. I mean, can't get on the other side within the 40-yard line.
Looking at just the early on drive charts, right? So the first, they force a punt on 8 plays. Missouri goes on the field, and that's 4 plays for them. And then Texas A&M, 5 plays for them. Missouri then goes 3 and out. Then Texas A&M scores a touchdown on a 9-play drive, and then Missouri follows that up. Only 5 plays on the field. So like that early on there, fortunately they forced a punt again, but that was still 7 plays. The Missouri turns it over on downs on a 7-play drive of their own. They could not stay on the field. They didn't have a double-digit play drive until, let's see, this was 14 minutes, like at the beginning of the fourth quarter. It's like you got to have double-digit drives to give your defense a breather. And I know that, like, people will see this final score and that, oh, you allowed 38 points to Texas A&M. And I think Texas A&M's average coming into the game was like 34 or something like that. So like this is an offense that scores a lot of points. But when you look at how this all shakes out, I mean, A&M ran like 78 offensive plays. Like that is an insane number of plays. Like you could not anticipate a defense to, you can't rely on the defense to do everything. It is very clear that Missouri has one really good unit right on this team. They are a spectacular defensive football team, and they have two other units in their three phases that are borderline incompetent. The special teams game doesn't exist.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
The only redeeming quality for the special teams is Faulk's returns, right? So like those are like he had a couple good returns. He had another one that got called back because of a penalty, but the special teams doesn't exist. Like they don't have a kicking game. They don't have like their punting. You saw the fake punt. Like that whole deal was so frustrating that they're running away from the ball carrier because they didn't even think that a fake punt was possible. It's so frustrating to watch.
Drink even said that. Drink said in this press conference. I don't remember what he said. Max something. I don't remember what he said. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he was like, "That's my fault. I didn't prepare them." But it's like, how do you not? How are you
blamed for everything? And I understand him doing that, but it's just like
he should.
You're avoiding the problem there, right?
You're avoiding the problem.
No, I'm not saying that he's not like I'm not. I don't want you to just take it like, oh, this is what he's doing behind closed doors. I'm sure behind closed doors is very different than what he's saying to the media. It should be. I don't think that it should be the same thing. But to the media, he's taking the blame for literally everything in that game. Like they talked about some like offensive stuff, and he's like, "Yep, that's my fault." There's some defensive stuff. Yep, that's my fault. Everything was his fault. And maybe I'm hoping Penn State saw that and they said maybe we shouldn't hire this guy.
Yeah. It's always his fault. No, like there was a play. It was a third down, a big third down, and we showed blitz like so early. Yeah. I mean, we had nobody back, and Marcel Reed goes up to the line, audibles, and we don't change anything, and it's another massive play. It's just little things like that. It's like, first off, why are we showing that max blitz so early on? You know, mm-hmm. But it was just little things like that, and the whole crowd is seeing this. It's like, why are we not able to make those adjustments in game?
Well, then you have Caden Green coming out after the game saying they knew all of our plays, like they were calling it out, and that's a coaching failure. Frankly, that's a coaching failure from the head coach all the way down to the GAs, right? GAs should be able to point that out. And Mike Elko, I think, had a perfect response to all that. I don't know if you saw this, and they're like, "Oh, what are you calling it?" He said, "I don't know what you're talking about." It's what you should do, not like the Buffalo Bills guy was like, "Oh yeah, no, we know all of this stuff," and to tip the Chiefs off to it. So like that was great for them. This is such a disappointing game because Maggie, if I would have told you the score was 14-0 at half, you'd be like, all right. I mean, you got to feel like you got a pretty good shot to get a little
getting the ball back.
Because
you're getting the ball back,
right? Getting the ball back at half, you're like, all right, this game could get a little frisky. But the offense just had legitimately nothing going. I know that a lot of people are frustrated on Kirby Moore. Like people want to blame Kirby Moore for a lot of the Ahmad Hardy only getting 3 carries in the first like half or something like that. But they only had the ball like 15 times, and I understand that like you should give Ahmad Hardy the ball all the time.
But people are
tough.
People are acting like Jamal Roberts isn't
good.
Play it.
Yeah,
right. I'm like, okay, Jamal Roberts. First off, he gets the ball a lot in those 2-minute drill type of things. So
he does.
It makes sense why he had the ball, you know, at the end of those halves, or you know, whatever. But he is a good running back. He ran for 110 yards. So people getting upset that just because Hardy didn't run for 200, like they both ran for 100 yards. I think that's a good day rushing from your running backs. It doesn't matter which one got it. That's a good day. The issue is in the passing game. It had nothing to do with the fact that Ahmad Hardy only had however many carries.
34 rushing attempts from Missouri in this game to 22 passing attempts. So they're running the ball more than they're throwing it, right? I know that like a lot of people want to put the blame, like you want to blame somebody, right? You want to blame one thing, but there is so much going wrong right now that you can't just blame one thing, right? You can't blame Kirby Moore for his play calling because he has a third string true freshman quarterback. And you can't really blame the true freshman third string quarterback because he's going up against an A&M team that is got some dudes. Like their horses were just better. That's what it comes down to. Like they just had more talent, and he doesn't have his tight end. That would be a very good outlet for him to have in the receiving game. And sometimes the protection isn't as good because those horses up front for Texas A&M pretty darn good, and the wide receivers aren't getting the ball. Like that's been really an interesting thing for me too, Maggie. And we saw this kind of a little bit last year as well. They cannot get the ball into the receivers' hands, and they've got dynamic wide receiver playmakers. And there's something happens if there's a legitimate frustration from Kirby Moore. I think this is it, where they have Marquise Johnson has been quiet all year, and I know that teams are probably trying to scheme him to take him out of it. You should be able to scheme him open. The same thing with Luther Burden. You should have been able to scheme open Luther Burden a little bit. Kevin Coleman has been, tough to find. Donovan Olubide has been their best wide receiver, and he's a true freshman as well. He had 74 yards, 3 catches, but nobody else outside of Olubide had more than 1 catch.
Yeah.
And now, granted,
we only had
7 passes.
They're only 7.
And only completing 7 passes, but they've got to figure out a way to get the ball into Johnson's hands, to Coleman's hands, Manning's hands. They've got to get it in their best players' hands, whether that's quick passing, whether that's screens, obviously running the football. If they want to put other guys back there to run the football, I don't know what they need to do, but that's been a really something that I've noticed, a legit critique about Kirby Moore, is that he has all of these playmakers at his disposal, and he can't figure out how to use all of them. And I think if anyone's if you're going to be frustrated about anything about Kirby Moore, it's that. It's not the play calling. It is his ability to use all the playmakers at his disposal.
And I think that's one of the frustrating things about watching A&M's offense versus watching our offense is the amount of playmakers that they use. They use wide receivers in the backfield. They do so much more than what we do. We couldn't even get a tight open. They ran the same play to a tight end 3 or 4 times wide open in the middle of the field. And I'm like, if defenses are doing what I think that they're doing, trying to get to the running backs, stop the run, how do we not have anything like that open? It is so frustrating. I didn't mind watching Zollers try to make some of those deep passes, but I did think it was kind of weird that of all games, this is the game you're taking all those deep shots, because I think we took more deep shots in this game than we have in any other game throughout the year. It shows the confidence that they have in his arm, obviously, but still makes me a little bit nervous because you're relying on this chemistry that maybe hasn't had time to build. And also you're making these boundary passes, right? You're throwing at sidelines and needing these receivers to make these miraculous catches over a defensive A&M team that's good, very good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's frustrating to see. I get what they're doing. They're trying to mix things up, but I don't know. I don't know what the answer is here, because
100%.
you gave us, you can't run the ball every play. You can't run the ball every play.
It's got to be quick passes. I think it's got to be screen games, whether it's wide receiver screens, Hardy, Roberts. And back to your point about just the running backs, I think Jamal Roberts is just as good as Ahmad Hardy. People might lock me up for that, and I might be canceled on Twitter because I say that. I don't know, but here's the other part about that. We know, Maggie, we've talked about this before. We know every time they have rotations for the running back, and when you know that late in the first half you're going to feed Jamal Roberts, and then people were upset why is Hardy on the field? That's not this is the 8th game they've played this year, 9th game they've played, and they've done it every single game. People shouldn't be surprised by that anymore. That's just something that they do. That's how the rotation works. And I think Jamal Roberts is a great football player. I think he is underrated to this fan base, truthfully. I think as one of the players on this team. I know that Hardy gets a lot of attention. Roberts has been just as good as Hardy, especially since SEC play has started. Arguably better than Hardy since SEC play has started. So there's a lot to still want for this team but there's a lot of injuries as well. I think that needs to be into perspective as well. I know there's a lot of frustration around Eli Drinkwitz and kind of not winning the big one. Hard to ask him to win a big one when he doesn't have his starting tight end and he's on the third string quarterback and he has
no kicker.
You don't have a kicker and you're hosting the number 3 team in the country. It's hard to be pissed about that one, truthfully. Like it was one of those things where I was like, man, that game sucked, but I wasn't as pissed as I was like after Alabama. I think I was more mad about that one, or after Vanderbilt, I was definitely more mad about that one. Like this one was just like that team was A&M was just better. I think is really what it came down to. A&M was just better. They had Casey Concepcion is an incredible football player. Just like he touched the ball and is just gone.
Yep.
I was like, holy shit, this dude is really good. He'll be playing on Sundays. They had a lot of dudes playing on Sundays, but overall, I had the game notes pulled up, Maggie, because I thought this interesting. That game marked the third time in the last 5 years that Missouri has started a new quarterback in the season's 9th game.
I wonder how many of those we won or lost.
One of those would have been Drew Pine last year, right? The 9th
right,
game
that Oklahoma
would have been Drew Pine. Obviously, you have Zollers in this one. Who would it have been in the last 5 years? Would Brady?
It would have had to have been that 2020 when we had a weird quarterback situation
Between Brady and Connor?
No. That was later.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was that Robinson was like the quarterback and he got hurt.
Let me see. Mizzou.
Man, years are hard I'm getting too old.
So
years are hard.
Last 5 years. Yeah, it'd be 2020 would be the last. So since 2020, let's look at their 2020 schedule. They played,
I bet it was Baslag.
It probably was.
And then he came in and became a starter. Regardless, that is actually kind of crazy that it's just the same. The same. You can't make it through those seasons, 3 or 4 years or 3 or 5 years without having a quarterback hurt.
In the 9th game, especially, too, I think is a really interesting.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull up the 9th game of 2020.
Oh no, it had to have been. We didn't play 9 games in 2020. We only played 8, so it had to have been.
Oh no, they played 10.
Oh, you're right. You are right. We did play 10 because they added LSU and Alabama to our schedule.
Yeah, appreciate that one. That one was great. Larry Roundtree was 38th rushing touchdown in that game. They lost to Georgia in their 9th game. Let's see.
Oh, Tyler Macon.
Macon.
It was
Tyler Macon.
Macon.
To be it, right?
Yeah, he started against Georgia. Yep.
He played baseball. Did he end up playing baseball for Missouri? Am I remembering that right? Did he transfer back to Missouri to play baseball?
No, I think there's
a different Tyler Macon.
Yeah.
There's 2 of them running around?
Yeah, I know.
That's crazy. I forgot about Tyler Macon. No, 100%. That is, he ended up going to Alcorn State and playing wide receiver? That's crazy. Well, shout out Tyler Macon. Who would have thought we would have had a Tyler Macon shout out on the podcast going into Mississippi State?
You never know what you're going to get.
You never do know. All right, let's get into our conversation with Robbie Faulk of On3. He covers the Mississippi State Bulldogs for On3 and then also Starkville Daily down there in Starkville. They talking some Bulldogs. A really interesting matchup here between two teams that kind of feel pretty similar in some regards, and we'll dive into it. Maggie and I will talk to Robbie, but first, you guys know that we got to take a break, got to pay some bills here, so we're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this with Robbie Faulk.
Hey, what's good, everybody? It is Ben Heisler, KCSN betting analyst. Got some thoughts on Mississippi State and Mizzou on Saturday night. We'll get to a play for that matchup coming up in just a second. But before we dive in, got to ask you, what's your favorite touchdown? It's got to be the next one, right? Because with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, every single touchdown could bring you closer to cashing in. Have you guys seen some of these overs lately, both in college and the NFL? It's just scoring is rampant, and more touchdowns equal more opportunities to win. So you want to get involved today. There's so many different ways, whether it's a first touchdown prop, anytime touchdown props, live in-game touchdown props, whatever the case, whatever you want to do, DraftKings has the option that's going to suit you and enjoy your college football Saturday. And the best part is new customers who bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly. All right. So if we're looking at this matchup right now, Mizzou comes in as a 7-point home favorite Saturday night in Columbia against Mississippi State. Total right now sitting at 51.5. Got to tell you, it makes sense for Missouri to be fired up about this game. Obviously, we know what happened last week was not their best showing, but it didn't really seem fair, right? Given the circumstances. Also, they were a 7-point dog coming into last week against A&M as well. But I still lean Mississippi State here. This line opened up at 7.5 for Mizzou and immediately got bet down to 7. I buy into Missouri being a good team, but it's also hard to evaluate them based on who they've beaten and who they haven't. They don't have a win over a team that's likely going to a bowl game, right? Good wins against Kansas, Auburn, South Carolina, but they've also had like good losses. And so I think with Mississippi State, this is the game that they need to get bowl eligible. They got the Egg Bowl against Ole Miss coming up in a little bit as well. And they've also played a lot of teams fairly tough throughout the course of the year. I worry about Mizzou's health a little bit. I have some concerns about whether or not they can pull ahead. We know they're going to do plenty of running the ball, staying physical. But I kind of see this being a Mizzou win, like off a field goal, extending drives and keeping this a little bit closer than maybe Tigers fans would want. So I expect them to win. I just don't know if they end up covering that 7. Now, if it goes to 6.5, I think we have a different conversation. I don't feel as comfortable about it, but right now with that full touchdown, especially where it opened at 7.5, I think Mississippi State +7 to me is the play with likely a close Mizzou win. So with all that being said, if your team hits pay dirt, it pays out to you. All you have to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use the code KCSN, code KCSN for new customers. You turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Remember, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Just 888-889-777 at ccp.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas. Pass-through of per wager tax may apply in Illinois. You must be 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, visit dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Calling all Chiefs fans, you could be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. Visit Chiefs.com/GEHA now. Enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pre-game coin toss. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at Chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Heather Luce, broker owner, KC Local Homes, and Emprise Bank has been a great partner for us. They're our partner in Possible. Debbie and I hit it off immediately, and she was one of the first bankers that I would say sat down with me and actually genuinely cared about my story and where I was coming from and what I was trying to do, not just what kind of loan do you need, how much equity do you have, and she really kind of laid out my options for me and just made the process make sense, and I felt comfortable with it. Start to talk about it and think about it, a building popped up that I wanted, that I could afford, and it was in a great area. And so they really guided me through the SBA. I used the SBA loan to acquire it and really guided me through that process and made it happen. I think that we talk about that a lot, where we wouldn't have a business. We wouldn't have what we have here if we didn't have the clientele that we do. I've always functioned out of a people over profits mentality. The houses sell themselves, right? I'm here to help people and facilitate the transaction for them.
Robbie, appreciate you joining us here on the Mizzou That's Who podcast, talking some Tigers and Bulldogs, a big SEC showdown going on in Columbia. How are things going down in Starkville?
Going pretty good. It's the vibe here is so much better than it was a season ago at this time, whenever State and Missouri were playing. I mean, at that point, Mississippi State was trying to win their third game of the season, and there just wasn't a whole lot of buy-in from the players, from the fan base. Now you're sitting here the last two games, and I think what people see is opportunity. They see a chance to get the bowl eligibility. that's really what the goal is for the team this year. And it's not a super high bar to get to a bowl game, but when you win 2 games a season ago and you don't win an SEC game, getting to 6 and potentially 2 or 3 SEC wins, that's a major step forward for a program that has been kind of in the wilderness the last few years. So I think, the vibes here are pretty good. People are wanting to buy into Jeff Lebby. They just need to see more wins.
That was one of my questions I was going to ask you. Is I feel like you can already see the differences between year 1 and year 2 with Lebby, but what are some of the biggest differences you've been able to see, whether it be from that fan support that you've seen or the players he's getting out of the portal or the recruits? Like, what are some of those biggest differences you've seen that have helped make that change?
Yeah, for sure. It's the players. You look at last year's roster, they didn't have a single player drafted. Not only that, they didn't have anybody invited to the NFL Combine. Everybody gets somebody invited to the Combine in the SEC, except for Mississippi State. And that was, Mississippi State, you look at the history of the program and the players right now that are in the NFL, so many big names in the NFL for them. And last year, they didn't even have anybody drafted or in the Combine. And, that's just not, Mississippi State's way. They've had NFL production. They've had NFL talent on their teams. So they had to go to the portal and they had to go find some players that were going to help them not only, compete on the field every Saturday, but compete in practice. That was one of the big things that Jeff Lebby talked about last year was he just didn't have players that were capable of giving them good practice reps to simulate what they were going to see during the week. And so now you have a chance to get players out there, you're 3 or 4 teams deep on each side of the line of scrimmage and different position groups. It's really made this team a much more competitive team in the SEC each week. You can see it on the field. I mean, last year, it never really felt like Mississippi State had a chance to win an SEC game. They were in some of those games, but it felt like they were fighting an uphill battle, even the ones that they were kind of within striking distance. So this is a much different feel around this team this year. They feel like they can go out on a given Saturday and go compete with just about anybody. Last week against Georgia was really the first time this year that it felt like Mississippi State was just severely outmatched. And I think that just kind of speaks to the offensive and defensive lines of scrimmage. But it is a team that this year is so much more competitive. They went and picked up, they lost Kevin Coleman, obviously. They lost Mario Craver. They went and picked up 2 guys that have actually been more productive. I'm not saying they're more talented, those 2 receivers, but they've gotten the same or more production out of Anthony Evans and out of Brennan Thompson this year. So they did a really good job evaluating and recruiting the transfer portal. And it looks like a totally different team in a lot of respects. That they still have some more ground to make up in the portal, but it's definitely a team that's way more competitive in league play.
Robbie, when we started to talk about this game and started to look at it from a Missouri perspective, it kind of feels like Mississippi State and Missouri have had some pretty identical seasons of playing some tough teams close and not being able to pull them out. Like Alabama from Missouri, Vanderbilt as well. And then last week, as you mentioned, the first time that Mississippi State was outmatched versus Georgia, Missouri was just straight up outmatched by Texas A&M. So it was kind of the first time all year where Missouri fans were like, oh, this team is just better than what our team is. I find that interesting, especially the state of those 2 programs, to find the similarities between the 2 years as they kind of converge into this game.
Yeah, and I think that Missouri probably looks a lot different with Bo Pribula out there last week against A&M. It's definitely a different offense when you don't have him in the ball game. It's a little more one-dimensional than it was. I think they still have the ability to have enough talented receivers that can go out there and make plays, but it takes a little away of what Drinkwitz wants to do offensively when you don't have that guy. I mean, you're down to your 3rd-string quarterback at this point. For Mississippi State, it's kind of the same thing for them, but at different positions. It's really strange. I don't know if I've ever seen this before. Mississippi State without right tackle Albert Reese just really struggles to run the football. We've seen that with interior linemen. We've seen that with a left tackle going out. I don't know how many times I've seen it with a right tackle going out of the ball game, but they are just not on the same page when he leaves. I don't know if it's his veteran leadership. He's been starting for 3 or 4 years at this point. I don't know if it's what he's doing physically. I have no clue, but they just have not been the same offensive system when they run the football with him out of the game. And so that's been a challenge for them in the same way I'm sure it's a challenge for Missouri. And Missouri is a much more effective defensive unit than Mississippi State, especially against the run. But, I think there are some similarities there in what they've done this year. They've been close. I think, Missouri's a couple of plays away from being in the college football playoff mix. You look at Mississippi State, you could very easily be sitting here with 8 wins at this point. They should have beat Texas. They should have beat Florida. They very easily could have beaten Tennessee. This is a team that could be sitting here right now with 8 wins. And at that point, I don't know if they're in the college football playoff mix, but they're in the top 25, top 20 with two other top 25 wins. So it's been trying to find a way to manufacture a win. They were able to do it against Arkansas, but it's been a little more difficult in some of these other games.
So we've seen Blake Shapen come out of the last 2 games with injuries, right? And he's had a pretty good season. It looks like he's thrown for 2,234 yards, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. All of that with an offensive line that hasn't really helped him out that much, if you know what I'm saying. So what are the vibes in Starkville with the quarterback situation? Will Shapen be starting? Is it going to be that backup that's come in and actually played pretty well? What's it looking like for you guys?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are ready to see freshman Kamario Taylor. He came right down the road in Oxby County, which is about 30 minutes away. That's where Jeffrey Simmons played football. If you guys know Jeffrey Simmons with Tennessee Titans, he has kind of I haven't seen many quarterbacks like him come through Starkville as far as his, the ceiling that he possesses, the talent. He's 6'4", 230. He can run like a deer. He can throw the ball 60 yards to there, flat-footed. He is a superstar in the making, but he's a freshman, and he's learning on the fly. He was an early enrollee. I think that definitely helped him getting here in the spring to have a chance to go through the reps with Jeff Lebby and learn under Blake Shapen. But State fans have seen enough from him and what he can do, manipulating the pocket, moving out of the pocket and extending plays, running the football the way that he has. They've seen enough from him that they feel like they're just ready to see what he can do with a full game plan, with a full week of preparation, having the full arsenal of the offense. He's been brought in kind of as a gimmick at times. They'll line him up at receiver and they'll put him in motion. They'll let him throw the ball some. They'll hand the ball off to him. He's run some read option, but he hasn't been able to run the full scope of the offense as much. But the last 2 weeks he has. He did it against Arkansas when he came in for Shapen. He scored 2 touchdowns in 3 possessions. He scored 2 touchdowns in 4 possessions against Georgia. So you're starting to see now the wheels turning in his mind, and he's getting better and better every time he goes out there. I don't know what's going to happen with Blake Shapen this week. Jeff Lebby did not seem promising whenever he was talking about him. He got, I think it was a rib injury. He was hit from the blind side on a sack in the 3rd quarter and did not return to the game, took his pads off. I mean, he didn't even try to get back in there. He came out of the locker room. I think he threw the football a couple of times and he was in pain. So it might be Kamario Taylor time. And if it is, that's a difficult quarterback for Drinkwitz and that defense too to prepare for, because he does so many different things and he can escape the pocket and he's a tough guy to defend in the read option, but he can also throw the football. His accuracy is not there just yet, but there's a lot to like about him. The fan base is behind him 100%. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. If it goes to him, the backup quarterback is probably going to be Luke Kromenhawk, who started some games for Florida State last year. He's capable too. So State has options there at quarterback, and I'm very interested to see what it looks like in offense, from the start with Kamario Taylor out there at quarterback.
I'd actually be more nervous about that. Yeah. Like that, him starting a mobile quarterback, like Mizzou has to really adjust their game plans for that. So I would rather Shapen start in that situation for us, because it's more of like a Ty Simpson type quarterback as opposed to like a Marcel Reed or a Lenora Sellers type quarterback.
Yeah, and that it kind of alleviates some of your issues on the offensive line. If you're Mississippi State, there's a lot of issues that they have protecting the quarterback. Blake Shapen's not great at escaping the pocket. Kamario Taylor is, and he's 6'4", 230. So he's not going down on first hit. So it's it's a guy that I think, and that's been kind of my point this week on our podcast and message board and stories and stuff, is like, I feel like he gives you the best chance to win games like this right now. And you're not getting enough from Blake Shapen to justify it being that big of a gap between the two from a experience standpoint, or, that he's making the right reads. Like, Shapen's making bad reads too. So to me, it's there's not enough there to say you absolutely have to start Blake Shapen, or Blake Shapen's the only way you're going to win this ball game. I think you can win this game with Kamario Taylor. I've been wrong before on that, on backup quarterbacks coming in and they haven't been ready, and he might not be ready. He might just have caught defenses off guard. I don't know. But there's a lot of people that want to see the opportunity present itself and just see what it looks like.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Looking to remodel your home and in search of a top-quality company to do the job? Contact Elenco. Since 1986, Elenco has been the remodeler of choice for customers throughout Kansas and Missouri. As a family-owned and operated business, Elenco provides customers top-quality products and unbeatable service, straight from their family to yours. From windows and doors to siding, insulation, and bathroom renovations, there's no need that Elenco can't meet and exceed. Elenco only installs products that have proven track records of success, such as the Kohler Luckstone shower system. Elenco's installers are factory-trained professionals who know how to get the job done, not only quickly, but flawlessly. Whether you're located in Kansas City, Topeka, Wichita, or a rural town in northeastern Kansas or western Missouri, Elenco will come to you. Go to elencohome.com for more information. That's ALENCO home.com. Again, elencohome.com for more information, and contact them about all your home improvement needs.
Well, I want to talk about when now Missouri's defense obviously has a huge task in front of them. They've done really well against those rushing quarterbacks, Maggie, as Maggie brought up recently, but that's kind of been a bugaboo of the Corey Batoon defense. Has been those mobile, those rushing quarterbacks, but the defense has been playing really well, keeping them in games. It's been the offense for Missouri that's kind of been putting them behind the eight ball, putting the defense in tough situations, tough spots. They've got a lot of injuries on the offensive side of the ball, as we talked about. Bo Perbula, he's out. Brett Norfleet has been dealing with injuries, it seems like, his whole college career, and they have really struggled to run the ball, establish the run, and get the ball into their wide receivers' hands. For Mississippi State's defense, what do they have to do to keep that going for Missouri, to keep those struggles going on the offensive side of the ball?
I think if I'm Coleman Hutzler, I'm selling out to stop the run, and I'm gonna force the quarterback to beat me in this game. And even selling out to stop the run isn't going to be easy when you have arguably the best back in the league and Ahmad Hardy. That's a guy that this staff knows well. They recruited him along with Fluff Bothwell. Those are two Sunbelt guys that have come into the league, and they're taking off. But Hardy is he's a Mississippi guy. He's got roots here, and this staff knows him well. And I imagine they're going to try to do what they can to limit what he does. And if you limit what he does, I think that you can limit the offense. If you put the ball in the quarterback's hands and make him beat you, that's probably State's best chance in this game to continuously get off the field. If they come out there with 3 down linemen and they're trying to guard the receivers down the field and you got a light box, it's going to be a long night. I mean, this team has struggled to just stop the run and just commit to it. They've struggled to do that since Coleman Hutzler's been here. So that's the big question is, what's the game plan this week? I would imagine that is going to be the game plan, sell out to stop the run and go from there. But, we'll see what happens. We saw it last year at Arizona State. You're looking at it and Cam Scatabo is picking up 8 yards a rush, and you're sitting there thinking, are you going to load the box at some point and stop this? Because Sam Leavitt couldn't complete a pass beyond 10 yards, and they never did it. And so Scatabo rushed for nearly 300 yards in that game, and it led people to question, how Coleman Hutzler got this job. But he's been much better this season. This defense has been much better. And I think just getting better players in here and getting more depth has been a huge part of that.
So we talked about Mississippi State staying at 5 wins, Mizzou staying at 6 wins. Both programs need this win for different reasons. I think, Mizzou needs it for that optimism that Drinkwitz might stay in Columbia and that they're building something in Columbia. I think that Mississippi State needs it in terms of, are we moving forward post getting, everything that happened with Mike Leach and everything, like moving in that positive direction, getting back to where you guys were. Looking at these trajectories, who do you think needs this win more?
That's a good question. I would say probably Mississippi State, because right now Jeff Lebby's trying to establish his program. I think at this point, I would imagine Missouri fans are pretty bought in on Drinkwitz. He has had that team in contention for the playoffs. They've been producing offenses at a high level the last few years. It just feels like he's kind of got that thing stabilized. And I think you can look at it and say the back half of the season here, you lost your quarterback and your backup quarterback earlier on in the year. And I think you can kind of throw that away. For State fans, like, they're still wondering if Jeff Lebby is the guy. And so getting to 6 wins, I think, is a benchmark moment for Jeff Lebby. He got a big win against Arizona State earlier in the year. He finally got his first SEC win. You go to a place like Missouri, playing a team that preseason a lot of people thought were going to make the playoffs. That would be another marquee win for him. And you get the 6th win before you play the Egg Bowl next week. So it takes a lot of pressure off of Mississippi State in 2 weeks, rather. It takes a lot of pressure off of Mississippi State going into that game against a playoff team in Ole Miss. So to me, it feels like Mississippi State needs this game a little more. Jeff Lebby needs it, especially more than Drinkwitz, I think, at this point. I don't think his job's in jeopardy, but you go into next season, if you're sitting there at 5-7 and it's, all right, we need to get to probably 7 or 8 wins next year, pushing 9 wins to really feel like Jeff Lebby's making that kind of progress. That's what I think is on the line here the next couple of games for State.
If we look at this matchup in this game, Robbie, appreciate you joining. Appreciate the time. What is going to have to go? What's the story at the end of the game that you're writing? If this game goes the way that Mississippi State needs it to, if they end up with a win, what do you anticipate you're going to be writing about in terms of what Mississippi State did on the field to get the win?
I think it could be a couple of things. I think defensively, it's that they did a really good job of forcing Missouri to be one-dimensional. And they took Ahmad Hardy out of the ball game. They limited him to 65 yards rushing or something. He averaged like 3 yards a rush. The game plan worked effectively. And then on offense, it's the emergence of Kamario Taylor. It's Kamario Taylor's time. He's the guy now. If they win this game and Kamario Taylor's your starting quarterback, I think it speaks for itself. If Blake Shapen was the guy that started, that I think we're talking about, this is who is Mississippi State's quarterback this year. Fans are going to have to deal with it. He's led Mississippi State to 6 wins and 2 SEC victories after a 2-10 season last year. This is Jeff Lebby's guy, and Jeff Lebby was correct. So there's a few different ways that this could play out if Mississippi State found a way to win.
We don't always make picks on this show. We're not going to take up too much more of your time. Do you typically make picks for the game? Do you want to make a pick for the game? You don't have to. You don't want to, but
our podcast has playmakers and predictions and analysis and stuff every Friday, and I haven't really dug into it yet on what I'm going to predict as far as the final score or whatever. I think I lean towards Missouri with this being a home game and some uncertainty for Mississippi State from an injury perspective. They have their leader on defense, Isaac Smith. I don't know where he is physically right now. He came out of the ball game in the first half last week. Blake Shapen obviously being out is a concern because Kamario Taylor has not started. I think people are excited about that possibility, but we don't know yet. So the injuries that Mississippi State has, the fact that Missouri's defense has been as good as it's been, you feel like they'll be able to get off the field some against Mississippi State's offense. And, then you got Ahmad Hardy back there, and State struggled to stop the run. So I just don't feel super confident about it from a Mississippi State perspective at this point. But I do think there are avenues for State to win this game. As of right now, I'd probably side with Missouri.
it is also senior night. So it's Mizzou's last home game. I know it matters. I know every school has their own, traditions. seniors getting rocks at the end of games is a big tradition. I think Drink's bringing rocks in to the stadium since our rocks are a construction zone right now. So it will be interesting to see if he can get them up for a big game like that.
Yeah, senior night too is an emotional night. I mean, so I've seen it play in a negative favor towards Mississippi State and teams all the time. It's really hard to gauge whether it's going to be, players just refuse to lose on their senior night or they're going to be too distracted. It's really, really hard to gauge. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see for sure.
Well, it should be a good one. 6:45. This is a 6:45 game under the lights at Faroe Field. Excited for that matchup to happen. It should be a pretty good game. Robbie, appreciate your time. Appreciate you hopping on and talking some dogs with us here. You can find him on Twitter at Robbie Faulk On3. That's going to do it for us here for Mizzou. That's who. For Robbie and Maggie, I'm Tucker. We will talk to you after the Mississippi State and Mizzou game on Saturday.